On Maple Street, the houses looked perfect, neat lawns, porch lights glowing, families waving at each other like nothing bad could ever happen here. But on a cold October night, everything changed. Detectives stood in a backyard, lifting the lid of a grill that was supposed to smell like burgers and charcoal. Instead, inside, they found the weapon that shattered the neighborhood's illusion, a cast iron skillet, wrapped in damp towels, its edge stained with blood. The Harpers, the family everyone thought they knew, suddenly became the center of a nightmare. A father with too much to lose, a teenage son desperate to protect him, a mother who chose silence instead of truth, and a teacher beloved, respected, lying dead in her kitchen because of secrets that couldn't stay buried. At 9:12 p.m., Evelyn Brooks turned on her porch light. She thought she was opening her door to a conversation. Instead, she opened it to her killer. This is the story of murder on Maple Street, a case of loyalty twisted into lies, and of a quiet suburb forced to face the darkness hiding behind perfect curtains. Now, let's go back to the beginning. Chapter 1. The porch light at 9:12 p.m. On Maple Street, the lawns were too green for October. A thin silver of frost sat on each blade like a secret, and a handful of paper ghosts hung from a dogwood, shivering in the early sun. At 7:18 a.m., Heather Cole crossed from her spotless colonial with a casserole balanced in oven-mitted hands. Because that's what Maple Street did best, when something felt off: bring food and pretend control. She rapped once on Evelyn Brooks's front door. "Ms. Brooks, you missed setup for the fall book fair." She tried a smile no one could see. "I made baked seeds." No answer. Heather could see the glow of the kitchen through the side window. The shades were up, and yesterday's mail still sagged from the brass slot in the door. She felt ridiculous, but the casserole was cooling, and her mind had been busy. Since midnight, PTA budgets, field trip permissions, and that offhand comment from Principal Patel. "Evelyn texted me she'd take first shift in the morning. She always keeps her word." Heather set the dish on the porch rail. She walked the flagstone path along the hedges, peeking in with the shamelessness of someone who believes in correctness more than privacy. The back gate was ajar. In the yard, wind chimes ticked half a melody. The kitchen was a painting, quiet, almost pretty. Light pooled on checkered tile. On the counter, a blue bowl had spilled, a soft snowfall of sugar sparkling like frost. Heather's first thought was that Evelyn had been baking before school, because Evelyn baked for her students the way other people prayed. Her second thought was the thing that hollowed her. Why was Evelyn not moving? Through the glass, a hand lay palm up near the island. The angle of the wrist was not right. Heather did not scream. She drew a breath so sharp it scraped, grabbed her phone, and dialed 911 with fingers that hit everything twice. By the time detectives Lena Hart and Marco Ruiz ducked under the yellow tape, Maple Street had produced coffee, blankets, and 3 different versions of the night. The street made space for tragedy the way it did for leaf bags and recycling bins. With order, with rules. Someone had placed Heather on her porch, with a throw over her legs. She clutched a mug, and blinked like someone who had walked out of a dream without her shoes. Lena paused on the threshold. She was mid-30s, straight-backed, hair in a nonsense bun that never quite stayed that way, and she had the look of someone who alchemized details into stories. Marco, 5 years older and 3 times as sarcastic, nodded toward the kitchen. "Uniforms walked the perimeter," he said. "Back windows broken. Looks wrong." "Everything looks wrong until it doesn't," Lena said. Inside, the kitchen was a battlefield with tidy manners. The sugar glittered on tile, a comet tail leading to the island. The knife block stood intact, one slot empty. A chef's knife lay near the sink, clean enough to sell. The victim of Ellen Brooks, 43, beloved English teacher, lay on her side beside the island, a bloom of dried blood matted in hair behind the ear. There was no spatter on the knife. There was, however, a minute arc of something on the lower cabinet door, barely there, the color of old brick. "Blunt force trauma," Lena murmured. "Not a stabbing. Knife's a prop." Marco crouched, peering under the island. "Check the window." The back window above the sink was fractured inward, lines spidering from a crater the size of a fist. Shards glittered on the sill on top of grains of sugar. "Window broke after the sugar spilled," Lena said. "If someone came in through the window, the sugar would be under the glass." Marco nodded, already photographing. "Staged burglary." "Staged something," Lena said. They worked in the quiet, their sentences short. The text dusted the counters and bagged the knife. Lena rifled the drawer beside the sink and found neatly folded blue microfiber towels. She took a sample. On the counter, an empty space suggested something had lived there, a pot, maybe, or a castile pan, its ring of dust, a pale halo. The stovetop was clean, almost too clean, a shine that smelled faintly of dish soap and lemon. Missing anything? Marco asked a uniform. The officer consulted his notes. Neighbor says, Ms. Brooks wore a silver locket. He said, students know it, maple leaf charm. It's not on the body. Phones? Lena asked. Phone's here, the uniform said, bagging it, but it's weird. Messages wiped since last night, 10 p.m., cloud backup might help. In the doorway, the principal appeared, wringing his hands. Dr. Amit Patel, tidy beard, eyes an exhausted brown. She's reliable, he said. She texted me at 6 last night. We're set for the book fair. See you bright and early. She never missed anything. Who found her? Lena asked, though she already knew. Heather, he said. She organizes everything. They went to talk to Heather on the porch. She sat up straighter as they approached, smoothing the throw like it might cover the morning's indecency. I didn't touch anything, she said before they asked. I promise. I knocked. The door was locked. I only looked through the window by the gate. You and Ms. Brooks friends? Lena asked. Everyone was friends with Evelyn, Heather said. She coached the poetry slam. She kept granola bars in her drawer for kids who forgot lunch. We don't have people like that to spare. Did Ms. Brooks have any problems lately? Marco asked. Anyone upset with her? Heather's gaze skittered to the street, where the neighborhood had assembled itself into polite knots. A man in gym shorts pretended to stretch. A boy slouched in a hoodie, earbuds in, eyes everywhere but here. Parents complain all the time, Heather said. Grades, reading lists. Some father sent an email about age-appropriate content last week, but that's par for the course. Evelyn took heat with grace. Name? Lena asked. Heather licked her lips. Mr. Harper, Daniel, they live next door. She glanced at the colonial with the perfect dormers. His wife, Claire, is exacting PTA adjacent. And the boy? Marco asked, nodding toward the hoodie. Noah, Jr., cross-country. Heather said, quiet, good kid. Lena watched Noah toe a crack in the sidewalk, hands buried in his sleeves. The hoodie had a contrasting stripe near the cuff, single white bar on black. Did you see anything last night? Lena asked Heather. Any visitors, cars, lights? Porch light was on earlier than usual. Heather said. 8 dish flicked on, off, then on again. I thought she was testing bulbs. Lena and Marco thanked her and moved on house to house, alibi to alibi. Claire Harper opened her door with a face like polished marble and let them step into a foyer that smelled like eucalyptus and a life carefully dusted. We were home, Claire said crisply. We ate late. Daniel went to the gym. The boy was in his room. What time did your husband return? Lena asked. 9:45, Claire said, checking her watch as if it could rewind Friday night. He showered. We watched the news. Why? Routine questions, Marco said. Daniel Harper descended the stairs, tying the drawstring of lounge pants, hair damp. He had the hands of a man who believed in treadmills and third chances. Detectives, he said, his smile practiced. This is awful. Evelyn was a treasure. How can I help? Where were you between 8 and 10 p.m.? Lena asked. Gym, he said without a blink. Merrifield Fitness, treadmill, and sauna. Happy to have you check the logs. We will, Lena said. Did you know Ms. Brooks socially? As a neighbor, Daniel said, and she taught my son. The pause after taught was a shallow grave. Outside, the air sharpened with the day. As they stepped off the Harper porch, Lena felt watched. Across the street, a milk-glass bungalow had a tiny camera eyeing the block from under its eave, one of those smart doorbells with ideas about safety. Hello, Lena said to the man watering mums. Mind if we take a look at your doorbell footage? We're narrowing the overnight window. In the tech van, they pulled the clip, watched Maple Street unspool in infrared. At 7:58 p.m., a raccoon took 5 minutes to reconsider a pumpkin. At 8:31, 2 joggers passed, one with reflective shoes. At 9:12 p.m., the porch light across the street, the one at Evelyn's, clicked on, bright as an interrogation. A figure entered frame from the edge of the Harper's yard. Hood up, they paused, watching the street in profile, a half mask of light and shadow. The sleeve of their dark jacket caught the porch glare, just a blink, and a single white bar near the cuff flashed like a sign before the hand lifted to knock. The figure turned their face away from the camera and slipped inside. The timestamp read 9 hours, 12 minutes and 6 seconds p.m. Freeze it, Lena said. The tech paused on the sleeve, the white bar clean and unmistakable against the dark. Marco whistled low. Varsity stripe, or a knockoff made to look like one, Lena said. Her eyes traced the edge of the Harper's lawn, the path the figure took. Either way, someone with a taste for teams went into Evelyn's house at 9:12. The clip kept rolling. 10 minutes later, the porch light flicked off. No one came out the front. The backyard camera, there wasn't one. Lena straightened, the universe narrowing to the white bar. Across the street, Noah Harper leaned into his hoodie like it could fold him into itself. When he moved, the cuff slipped, and the same stark stripe winked in the sun. Marco, Lena said, low, start the gym calls. I'll talk to the boy. She made it 3 steps before the tech in the van cleared his throat. Detective, there's more. They all leaned in. At 9:28 p.m., the camera caught just at the edge of the frame the figure, leaving the side yard. Moving quick, holding something tucked awkwardly under one arm. Not a knife, too heavy, a shadow with weight. What is that? Marco asked. The image fuzzed. Pixels failed at being detectives. The shape was rectangular, dark, maybe with a looped handle. It swung, then stilled. A pan the tech offered, like a cast iron skillet. The figure paused at the corner of the Harper's fence, glanced around, and then disappeared toward the backyard toward the Harper's grill. Lena felt the click that meant a story had begun to tell itself. She looked once more at the sleeve stripe, at 9:12 p.m., at the neat smallness of Maple Street and all it contained, and then she fixed Noah with a calm she did not feel. Noah, she said, stepping onto the sidewalk. Got a minute? He lifted his head. His eyes were red-rimmed, or tired, or 17. About what? He asked. About last night, Lena said. About where you were at, 9:12. Noah's mouth opened. Nothing came out. His gaze broke and flattened out to his mother, not to his father, but to the fence line that separated their yard from Evelyn's kitchen window. Behind him, the grill lid glinted in the sun, a black dome as innocuous as a whisper. And then Lena's phone buzzed with the first gym callback. No Daniel Harper in the system after 8, and the case on Maple Street tipped from quiet to something else entirely. Chapter 2: Perfect Neighbors, Messy Lies. Detective Lena Hart stared at her buzzing phone until the caller ID faded to black. The gym's manager had said it clearly enough. No sign-in for Daniel Harper after 8 p.m. yet. Daniel had looked her straight in the eye and sworn he was pounding a treadmill until 10. She slipped the phone into her coat pocket. Across the street, Noah Harper tugged his hood tighter, as if a strip of fabric could erase the sleeve stripe Lena had frozen on in the footage. Marco Ruiz ambled over from the patrol car, coffee in hand. Jim's a bust, Lena said. Her eyes stayed on Noah. Marco followed her gaze. Kid looks like he wants the pavement to eat him. Think he saw something, or did something, Lena murmured. The air smelled of pumpkin candles and cold earth, the suburban mix of safety and denial. Maple Street's residents clustered in 2s and 3s, whispering theories under the guise of sympathy. Claire Harper stood a little apart, arms crossed, posture ramrod straight. She scanned the scene with the practiced chill of someone who pruned roses down to symmetry. Let's talk to the Harpers again, Lena said. Inside, Claire opened the door before they knocked. She wore a pale silk blouse with sleeves rolled to the elbow, no wrinkle in sight. You've asked us questions already, she said. Her voice had the polish of PTA speeches. Surely our family deserves privacy during. She hesitated, eyes flicking toward the crime scene tape across the street. This tragedy. Lena kept her own voice level. Mrs. Harper, your husband's alibi doesn't check out. We need to go over the timeline. Claire's jaw tightened. Daniel was at the gym. No record of that, Marco said, sipping his coffee like they were talking about weather. Claire's nostrils flared. Then the gym made a mistake. He always goes there on Fridays. From the staircase behind her, Daniel appeared again, hair damp as if he'd just showered. He raised his hands. Detectives, look, I told you where I was. If their system lost my sign-in, that's on them, not me. Lena studied his face. Smooth confidence, but a sheen of sweat still on his forehead. We'll pull CCTV from the parking lot. That'll clear it up. Do whatever you need, Daniel said. He was too quick, too accommodating. Behind him, Noah hovered halfway down the stairs, earbuds dangling. His hoodie sleeves sagged, and the white stripe caught the light. His eyes slid to Lena, then away. "Young man," Lena said, "mind answering a couple questions?" Noah shrugged. "I already told the uniform I was home." "Doing what?" "Gaming. Headset. Lost track of time with friends."
"Yeah."
"Can we get their names?" Lena asked. Noah hesitated, then rattled off a few. Lena made a note to verify later. His voice was steady enough, but his foot tapped against the step fast, jittery. Claire interjected. "My son has nothing to do with this. Evelyn was his teacher. He admired her enough to visit last night." Marco asked. Noah's head snapped up. "No." Daniel placed a hand on his son's shoulder, firm but gentle. "We've answered enough. If you need more, talk to our lawyer." It wasn't a request. Lena and Marco exchanged a glance. The Harpers were circling the wagons, but wagons leaked. Back in the car, Marco muttered, "Whole family's lying. Question is, who's lying about what?" "Let's check Evelyn's cloud backup," Lena said. "If messages got wiped, we might still have them." The texts had already started. By the time Lena reached the van, an analyst waved her over. "Got something." Deleted texts, restored from the cloud. On the screen glowed a thread between Evelyn Brooks and Daniel Harper. The last week was filled with clipped messages. "Evelyn, we need to talk. She deserves the truth." "Daniel, not now. It'll ruin everything." "Evelyn, he knows." Then silence. Deleted at 10:02 p.m. Lena felt her stomach tighten. "He knows," she repeated aloud. Marco whistled. "Affair. Looks that way," Lena said. "And someone else, maybe Noah, found out." They spent the afternoon canvassing more neighbors. Most were eager to gossip, though each insisted Maple Street was the kind of place things like this happen. Mrs. Miller, 2 doors down, swore she heard a car door slam around 9:30. Big thud, like something heavy dropped inside. She said, Mr. Kim, retired on the corner, mentioned seeing Noah cutting through Evelyn's yard earlier in the week. Looked upset. Head down. Teen stuff, I figured. By dusk, Lena and Marco regrouped at the precinct. Evidence bags cluttered the table. Evelyn's phone, shards of glass, a wiped knife that didn't match the wound. The lab report confirmed what Lena suspected. The kitchen window glass lay on top of the sugar, proving it had been broken after the spill. A staged entry. "And look at this," Marco said, sliding over a photo. A sneaker print, faint but clear enough, had been lifted near the sink. Narrow sole, likely a teenager's size. "Not Daniel's," Lena said. "Not Heather's, either," Marco added. "She's 2 sizes bigger." The print nagged at Lena. A boy's shoe in the victim's kitchen. A missing Castilian pan. A staged break-in. She stared at the board until her eyes blurred. Then she wrote 2 names in red marker. Daniel Harper. Noah Harper. At 9 that evening, Lena drove back to Maple Street alone. She liked the quiet hum of the neighborhood after dark, the sprinklers, the distant whir of TVs behind curtained windows. Suburbia tried to lull detectives into thinking evil couldn't bloom here, but Lena knew better. Evelyn's porch still wore its crime scene tape like a wound. Across the street, the Harper's house glowed warmly, curtains drawn. From the driveway, faint music pulsed the thrum of Noah's video games. Perhaps. She circled around back. The Harper's grill sat beneath the deck, cover draped over it. She crouched, lifting the edge of the fabric. Inside, nothing but ash and the faint tank of old grease. But the cement around the legs held a smear, dark, irregular, scrubbed but not gone. Blood. She'd need the lab to say. Her phone buzzed. "Marco, you should see this," he said. "We just got a fingerprint match of something in Evelyn's recycling bin." What was in it? A note, written in thick marker. It says, "Stop or they find out." Marco paused. "Fingerprint belongs to Daniel Harper." Lena straightened, heart thudding. "So much for the gym." Marco's voice dropped. "There's more." Evelyn's voicemail. Timestamped 8:47 p.m. Her voice is shaky. She says, "We talk tonight, or I tell Claire." Then nothing. From across the street, a curtain in the Harper's upstairs window shifted. A silhouette lingered a second too long, watching the yard. "Marco," Lena said quietly, "I think somebody's still cleaning up." The silhouette vanished, and the porch light of the Harper house flicked on. Chapter 3. Red Grades and Red Herrings. The next morning, Lena Hart parked her unmarked car in the high school lot where Evelyn Brooks had taught. The brick building loomed plain and ordinary, like a place built for pep rallies. not funerals. But schools carried whispers better than any crime scene. Kids knew things adults tried to bury. Principal Amit Patel met her at the office door, his tie already crooked before first period. His eyes were rimmed with the red of sleepless nights. "Detective," he said, lowering his voice. "The staff is rattled. Kids too. Please be discreet." Lena nodded. "I just need background. Motives don't grow from nowhere." They walked down the hall. Lockers banged. Sneakers squeaked. A few students peered at Lena, curiosity disguised as grief. Patel stopped by the English wing. Evelyn was meticulous. She filed complaints when necessary. "This," he hesitated, pushing a manila folder into Lena's hands, "came across my desk last week. Parent complaint. He wanted Evelyn disciplined for grade bias." Lena flipped through the letter. Harsh words scrawled in block handwriting. "If she doesn't change that grade, everyone finds out who she really is." Signed, "A concerned father, Daniel Harper." Lena asked. Patel shifted. "I can't officially say, but yes. Noah was failing junior lit. Evelyn refused to inflate his grade. She believed he could earn it on his own." The words failing and refused stuck in Lena's mind. Conflict had roots here. In Evelyn's classroom, dust still clung to the whiteboard. Students sat hushed. On her desk lay untouched papers, essays with bright red marks in the margins. "Clarity," one note said. "Evidence needed." Evelyn had expected more from her students than they gave. Lena touched the desk lightly, then turned to the class. "Who saw Ms. Brooks Friday night?" Murmurs rippled. One girl raised her hand. "She told me she had a meeting. Said it would finally end the awkwardness. She didn't say with who." Another voice piped up. "Noah Harper was mad. He stormed out after she gave him a C on his essay. Said she didn't respect him." The class fell silent after that. Lena thanked them and left, her head already weaving threads. A father angry over grades, a son humiliated in class, and a teacher planning a late-night confrontation. At the precinct, Marco Ruiz waited with a stack of lab reports. He waved one like a flag. Window glass analysis broken from inside. Shards on top of the sugar, just like you thought. "Staged break-in by who?" Lena asked. Marco shrugged. "Someone who wanted it to look like a burglary, or someone who panicked." Another report lay beneath it. And get this, the shoe print from Evelyn's kitchen. Narrow sole, teenage male, probably size 9, not Daniel. Lena thought of Noah's jittery foot, tapping the stair. Size 9 wouldn't be far off. Marco leaned closer. Kid might have gone there, staged the break-in, tried to cover tracks. Or maybe Dad did it, and Junior panicked afterward. Lena rubbed her temple. Either way, the Harper's halo is slipping. By dusk, Lena and Marco were back on Maple Street. They knocked on Heather Cole's door, the neighbor who found the body. Heather answered with a nervous smile, wiping flour from her hands. "More questions?" she asked. "Always," Marco said. Heather led them inside, where the kitchen counter bore another casserole cooling under foil. "This is how I cope," she said, almost apologetic. "Mrs. Cole," Lena said gently, "did you see anything unusual the night Evelyn died? Lights, sounds, arguments?" Heather hesitated. "The porch light, I told you. It clicked on twice, then stayed on." "Twice?" Lena asked. Heather nodded. "Once around 9, then off, then back on, like someone was testing it, or signaling." "Did you hear voices?" "Maybe, a muffled argument. I thought it was the TV." Heather's hands trembled as she folded the foil tighter. "This street people think it's perfect, but perfection hides things." Her eyes darted toward the Harper house before she added, "You should talk to Claire. She runs things here." The Harper's front door opened before they knocked. Claire stood framed in the doorway, composed as ever. "You detectives are back again," she said. Lena kept her tone even. "We have more questions for Noah." Claire's lips pressed thin. "My son has already spoken. He was gaming. End of story. Game records can be checked," Marco said. "We'll subpoena if we have to." Claire's mask cracked for half a second. Then she stepped aside stiffly. Upstairs, Noah sat at his desk, headset around his neck, screen glowing with paused gameplay. He didn't look surprised to see them. "I told you," he muttered. "I was here all night." "Not all night," Lena said softly. "We have footage showing someone with your jacket sleeve entering Evelyn's house at 9:12. Noah's eyes widened, then narrowed. "Lots of jackets look like this. Lots of jackets don't leave sneaker prints in her kitchen," Marco added. Noah's throat worked. He looked like he might say something, then his father appeared in the doorway, arms crossed. "That's enough," Daniel said. "Noah isn't answering more without counsel." The tension hung like a storm cloud. Later that evening, Lena returned to the precinct. She laid the reports and notes across the board. Threads connected names, times, and fragments. Evelyn's threat. "He knows." Daniel's fingerprinted note. "Stop, or they find out." Noah's failing grade. Staged window. Shoe print. Teenage size. The pattern was clear. Either Daniel killed Evelyn to silence her, or Noah went to confront her and something went fatally wrong. But one thing nagged at her. The neighbor's account of the porch light off, on again. A signal, a mistake. She flipped back to the doorbell footage. At 9:12, the hooded figure entered. At 9:28, they left with something heavy, but the timeline left a gap. Who turned the light off in between? The following morning, a plumber called from Evelyn's house. "Ma'am, you wanted the sink trap checked for trace evidence." "Well, I found something." Lena drove over fast. The plumber held up a bagged item. Dripping inside was a knife blade snapped from its handle. Edges slick with dish soap, but faint stains still clung. And woven into the drain sludge were blue microfiber fragments, the same kind from the Harper's kitchen towels. Her pulse quickened. Someone had tried to wash away more than guilt. Marco arrived minutes later. "So what's the call?" "Father covering for son, son covering for father." "Maybe both," Lena said. She sealed the evidence bag herself. "But whoever turned that porch light on and off is the key." That night, Lena drove Maple Street one more time. The neighborhood lay hushed, Halloween decorations rattling in the breeze. She slowed by Evelyn's house. Then the Harper's shadow moved past the Harper's upstairs window. Then the porch light clicked on once. It stayed lit for 10 long seconds, then clicked off again. Her phone buzzed at that exact moment. An unknown number. She answered. A whisper. "Stop digging, detective, or more people will get hurt." The line went dead. Chapter 4. The Family Next Door. The anonymous call still echoed in Lena Hart's ear when she sat in her car outside the Harper's house. The porch light had gone dark again, but the image of it, flicking like a coded signal, stuck with her. Someone inside was playing games, and Lena was getting tired of being the pawn. By morning, she and Marco Ruiz had a warrant in hand. The judge hadn't hesitated. The evidence was stacking too neatly to ignore. They approached the Harper Colonial just after sunrise, uniforms behind them. The neighborhood watched from behind curtains and coffee mugs. Claire Harper answered the door in a pressed cardigan, lips tight. "You're frightening the neighbors." "Your neighbors will manage," Lena said, holding up the paper. "Search warrant." Claire's nostrils flared, but she stepped aside. The kitchen was immaculate, lemon-scented, and too perfect. Drawers clinked as Tex bagged microfiber towels. One officer pulled open the oven drawer empty. Another lifted lids from gleaming pots. Then came the pantry. On the lowest shelf, behind a stack of neatly labeled flour jars, a rag balled up, stiff with something darker than rust. Marco held it up. "Blood," he said flatly. Claire's composure cracked. "That could be anything: meat, juice, old sauce." "Lab will tell us," Lena cut in. In the garage, uniforms swept flashlights. By the workbench, a shelf of cleaning supplies stood in militant rows. Bleach gloves, scrub brushes, and on the floor, a shoebox holding sneakers, size 9 soles, damp as if recently rinsed. Lena crouched. Faint red specks dotted the grooves. She bagged the shoes herself. Upstairs, Noah sat on his bed, phone in hand, eyes fixed on the wall. He didn't flinch when Lena entered. "You've got size 9 feet, don't you?" she asked. Noah's jaw twitched. "So what?" She set the evidence bag with the sneakers on his desk. "These prints match the one in Evelyn's kitchen." Noah's shoulders hunched. He pressed his palms into his eyes. "I didn't," he broke off, voice cracking. "You didn't what?" Lena asked softly. "I didn't mean for her to." His breath came ragged. Then Daniel's voice thundered from the doorway. "Noah." Daniel strode in, pulling his son's hands down. His eyes locked on Lena, burning. "That's enough. You can't interrogate a minor without counsel." "You should have thought about counsel before lying about the gym," Marco said from behind him. Daniel's lips tightened. "We're done here." But Lena had seen it, the raw guilt in Noah's half-confession, and the way Daniel jumped in like a shield. Back at the precinct, Lena spread the new finds across the evidence board. Bloodied rag, washed sneakers, Harper's towels, This family is drowning in cover-ups, Marco muttered. The only question is who swung first, dad or son? Lena tapped the board. Evelyn's voicemail proves she threatened to tell Claire about the affair. That gives Daniel motive, but the shoe print, that's Noah. And kids make mistakes, like staging a break-in with sugar still on the floor. So maybe the boy panicked, hit her, then dad cleaned up after. Marco said, or dad killed her, and the kids trying to take the blame. Both scenarios fit too well. That evening, Lena returned to Maple Street alone. She walked past the Harper's house, quiet under its trimmed hedges. Porch light off now, but she saw the grill under the deck again, black dome catching faint moonlight. She crouched, lifted the lid. Inside lay only charcoal ash, but on the grate, a faint smear glowed under her flashlight's UV beam. Trace luminol would confirm it, but Lena didn't need the science. Someone had hidden something here. Her phone buzzed. Marco, you're not gonna like this, he said. Claire Harper's SUV dashcam recorded something Friday night. Park mode activated. Picked up a faint clunk from their backyard. Around 10, Lena's pulse jumped. A heavy object being dropped. Exactly. Matches the timeline of our hooded figure leaving Evelyn's. She closed the grill lid carefully. Somewhere inside the house, a curtain shifted again. Watching. Always watching. The next morning, Daniel Harper walked into the station with a lawyer at his side. He sat across from Lena, arms crossed, expression calm. Yes, I had an affair with Evelyn Brooks, he said evenly. I'm not proud, but I didn't kill her. Then why the threatening note with your fingerprint? Lena asked. His lawyer leaned in, whispering, but Daniel waved him off. I wrote it when I thought she might go to Claire. I panicked. But I never stepped inside her house that night. You expect us to believe that? Marco asked. Daniel's jaw set. Believe what you want. But if you keep pressing my son, you'll destroy him. He didn't do this. The words rang hollow. That evening, Noah Harper sat in his room, staring at his phone. Lena, granted another short interview by the family lawyer, watched him closely. Noah, she said gently, you're carrying something. I can see it. If you tell me the truth, I can help you. His eyes filled, but he shook his head. He was supposed to fix it. That's what he said. Fix it who? Lena pressed. My dad. His voice cracked. He went there after me. After the lawyer cut in, snapping the session closed. But Lena had caught it. After me. Back at Evelyn's house, the plumber's evidence came through. The broken knife blade was a red herring. Cause of death was blunt force, not stabbing, which brought Lena back to the missing pan. The heavy object, the grill. She and Marco returned to the Harper's deck with a new warrant. They lifted the grill plates, scraped beneath, and there it was, wrapped in 2 damp shop towels, caked in ash and grease. A cast iron skillet, its edge dented, faint stains visible under the light. Marco exhaled. There's our weapon. Lena nodded grimly. And it was right under their noses the whole time. She barely had time to tag it before headlights swept the yard. Claire Harper's SUV pulled into the driveway. She stepped out, saw the skillet in Lena's gloved hands, and froze. For a split second, Claire's mask cracked eyes wide, breath caught, as if she'd been guarding this secret with every inch of herself. Then her composure snapped back. Detective, she said coolly. You have no idea what you're doing, but Lena did. She was holding the truth in her hands. Chapter 5. What the camera kept. The cast iron skillet sat in the lab beneath a metal hood, its black surface freckled with tiny constellations of rust and something darker in the sterile light. The pan looked ordinary, the kind of heirloom you used for pancakes on a Sunday morning. In the wrong hands, it had become a hammer. Prelims lighting up, the lab tech said, swabbing along the dented lip. A faint glow bloomed under reagent, luminol positive, along the edge, faint spatter on the underside. Someone rinsed this hard, but not hard enough. Lena Hart leaned in, watching the blue fade. Any prints? Wiped. The tech said, we've lifted partials, but they're smears. Glove drag, wet rag, take your pick. We'll try texture enhancement, but don't hold your breath. What about fibers? Marco said from behind her, coffee already going cold in his hand. The tech nodded to a petri dish. Blue microfiber threads trapped between the pan and towel folds. Same weave as the towels we bagged from the Harper's kitchen. Lena let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Knife decoy, skillet weapon, towel cleanup. It was the kind of plain picture case suburban cul-de-sacs pretended they didn't host. Walk me through the timeline again, she said, eyes still on the pan. Marco flipped open his notebook. 8:47 p.m. Evelyn's voicemail to Harper. We talk tonight, or I tell Claire. 9:12. The hooded figure enters Evelyn's front door. 9:28. Same figure exits, carrying a rectangular, heavy object down the side yard, toward the Harper's backyard. 9:45. Daniel's supposed to be arriving from the gym, which is a lie. 10:02. Wiped messages on Evelyn's phone, and at roughly 10:03, Claire's SUV dashcam, in park mode, records a metallic clunk from the direction of their grill. 2 visitors, one before, one after, Lena said, and the second one cleans, and lies, Marco added, about everything. Lena checked her watch. 10:43 a.m. Let's go see exactly what Claire's camera heard. Claire Harper's SUV was immaculate, of course, a detail vacuum's dream. She stood on the driveway with her arms folded, watching the retrieval like she was supervising contractors. Our tech will hand your dashcam back in an hour, Lena said, because people like Claire trusted deadlines. We need the memory card and camera settings to verify what it recorded Friday night. Claire didn't move. The muscles along her jaw worked like wire. I didn't know it recorded at all, she said. My dealer set it to park mode. We barely used the thing. Then you won't mind us looking, Marco said, all honey and steel. Claire's eyes slid to the side yard, to the grill tucked beneath the deck. Do what you have to do, she said finally, and turned on her heel toward the house. They popped the panel, extracted the card, and hustled it to the tech van. A minute later, grainy rectangles filled the screen. The SUV hood, the drive, the sliver of side yard where the deck posts through black stripes across concrete. The software superimposed timestamps. 10 hours, 3 minutes and 14 seconds p.m. A frame flag pulsed, motion, audio cracked to life-thin, compressed. A scrape, a faint grunt, then a metallic clunk like cast iron kissing another hard surface. Silence, then a second sound, softer, the squeakiest of a grill lid settling. Rewind 5 seconds, Lena said. The tech did, slowed playback to half speed. The figure moved between shadows, just an elbow, a shoulder, a dark hood. The camera caught a sliver of the object as it passed the edge of the frame. A curved lip, a looped handle, classic skillet silhouette. The arm holding it was tucked tight, the weight borne one-handed. Left hand, lefty, Marco said, glancing at Lena. You notice Noah, right Sapulpore. In the interview, he picked up his phone with his left, shoved his right into his pocket. Lena's mind flashed to the boy at the top of the stairs, fingers ink-smudged along the outer edge of his palm. Left-handed kids carried the same side stains. Park mode triggers only when something gets close, the tech added. So the person was right beside the SUV between car and deck. That's 3 feet from the grill. Zoom in, Lena said. The tech tried, pixels stretching like taffy. The image broke into squares that pretended to be a sleeve, a wrist, a hand clamped around a loop. No face. The suburbs I had watched, but halfway. We'll boost the audio, the tech said. Sometimes filters tease out speech. They ran another pass. Under the metallic notes, a whisper bled through static. 4 syllables. It took 3 tries before Lena's brain made them into words. I'll fix it. She and Marco stared at each other. The voice was low, hoarse with worry. Not enough fidelity to say whose, but there it was, promise or threat. Daniel's words to his son, Marco said, or his son's to himself. Pull phone records, Lena said. I want pings for all 3 Harpers between 8 and 11, and let's talk to the other recording devices. Maple Street loves its digital watchdogs. They built a grid, bungalow doorbells, garage motion cams, the Kim's driveway, Heather's smart thermostat, which helpfully logged when the porch door opened and closed because of heat loss. At 9:10 p.m., Heather's thermostat noticed Evelyn's front door swing open and closed. At 9:12, the bungalow cam showed the hooded figure arrive. At 9:20, Mr. Kim's side yard floodlight flickered on for 2 minutes. Then off motion detected behind the shared fence line. At 9:28, the hooded figure left Evelyn's and disappeared toward the Harper's yard carrying something heavy. At 9:41, a neighbor's door cam caught Claire stepping onto her own porch, phone at her ear, pacing tight circles. She spoke quietly, a hand pressed to her eyes. At 9:44, Daniel's phone pinged off a tower near Maple Street closing in. At 9:47, The Harper's SUV registered a key fob, proximity event, a ghost hand, on the handle that never actually pulled. At 10:02, Evelyn's message thread was wiped. Whoever said "I'll fix it" had minutes to work, Marco said, tapping the timeline. And someone did exactly that. 2 layers of evidence, Lena murmured. Blood carries the truth of the blow. Devices keep the truth of the movements. She called the school, asked the office for copies of anything Noah had turned in recently. 2 hours later, a student aide dropped off a manila envelope. Inside, essays, a reading log, a note from Evelyn. You have a good eye. Slow down. Let evidence lead your claim. The bottom right corner of Noah's paper carried the left-hander's tell. Ink smeared where the hand had dragged through still damp lines. She couldn't use a smudge in court, but in a detective's calculus, it weighed something. They brought Claire back in alone. In your dashcam, Lena said. We heard a clunk from your backyard at 10:03. We also have you on your porch minutes earlier. Phone to ear. Who were you calling? Claire folded her hands. For the first time, they shook. My husband, she said. I called him 5 times. He didn't pick up until the 6th. Because he was cleaning up, Marco asked. I don't know what he was doing, she said. I only know he said he was walking it off. He sounded off, like he'd run a marathon. He walked in after 10, went straight to the downstairs bath, and showered. I asked if he'd seen Evelyn. He said no. I knew he was lying because he only lies when he wants to spare me. Spare you what? Lena asked. Claire stared at the table, seeing something else. What I already knew, she said quietly. About the affair. About how suburbs survive. People don't tell truths. They manage them. What about Noah? Lena asked. Did he go to Evelyn's? At that, something like a tremor ran through her. Noah is a good boy, she said. That wasn't the question, Lena said, softer than she felt. Look at me. Did Noah leave the house between 9 and 10? Claire lifted her eyes. They were bright with a kind of furious love. He was in his room, she said. He had a headset on. Her voice dipped. I checked on him at 9:30. He was here. Lena held the pause a beat longer than comfortable. Claire did not fill it. The interview room hummed with the air conditioner and the things people do to protect each other. Phone records will tell us who was where, Lena said finally. Then check them, Claire said, chin up. But until you do, leave my family alone. Phone records told a partial story. Daniel's calls bounced from Jimville to nowhere from 8:05 to 8:52. At 9:02, his phone stopped hitting towers completely until 9:44, when it blipped back to life near Maple Street, like a diver breaking surface. Airplane mode, dead battery, a pocket in radio silence. Claire's phone lived at home the entire time, pinging the domestic cell booster. Noah's phone also hugged the house, but the gaming console logs told a different story. His account went idle from 8:56 to 9:35, logging back in at 9:38, as if trying to plant a flag in time. Console can be left running, Marco said, but idle isn't the same as online. He was dark for 39 minutes, Lena said, long enough to cross a lawn, knock on a door, and do something that wrecks a life. A junior varsity cross-country schedule on the fridge said the team ran after school every day. Noah's build fit the run times. Getting to Evelyn's and back would take a minute and a bad decision. That afternoon brought another angle. A dog walker named Tessa knocked on the precinct's front glass and offered what she thought might be nothing, but it kept her awake for 2 nights. I was walking a rescue near 9:30, she said, twisting a leash around her wrist. Even though no dog was attached, I cut behind the Harper's fence to avoid a stroller pileup on the sidewalk. I heard voices, a younger one saying, please, please, like when teenagers try to be grown up and their voice betrays them. Then a man said, Lo, I'll fix it. Go inside. I thought it was a family fight, so I kept moving. She looked up, guilty. Did I mess up? Should I have called someone? No, Lena said softly. You did what most people do when they hear private things. But now it helps a lot. Could the younger voice have been Noah? Marco asked. Tessa chewed her lip. Could have bought any kid who broke a rule and knew his life was about to change. Lena felt the click she trusted, the one where disparate pieces lined up. A hooded figure at 9:12 with a varsity stripe. A heavy object moved at 9:28. A grill lid settling at 10:03. A mother pacing with a phone. A father returning with a shower and a lie. A boy going silent on a game he lived inside. Evelyn's last words. We talk tonight, or I tell Claire. Someone had talked, someone else had fixed. The lab called just after sunset. Blood on the skillet matched Evelyn's. Microscopic fragments embedded along the dented lip included a speck of granite, same composition as Evelyn's kitchen counter, where the blow must have glanced before the final hit. Tiny blue fibers on the handle matched the Harper's towels. A single dark hair caught under the folded rim was human, but too short and degraded to type without DNA. Skillet's a match, Marco said, hanging up, and the granite speck is a poet's bonus. Weapon met counter before skull, which means the strike happened in the kitchen, near the island, Lena said, picturing the sugar, the shine of dish soap on the knife that never bit. No break-in, no intruder, just a conversation that turned into a catastrophe. She stared at the board. Daniel's name, Claire's, Noah's, the silence under 912. I'll fix it at 10:03. We bring Daniel back in, Marco said. He's the adult who cleaned. He lied about the gym. He wrote the note. At minimum, accessory after, and if we squeeze him, Lena said, maybe the real timeline breaks loose. She grabbed her coat. The room's fluorescent thrum threaded through her skull. Maple Street liked to keep its noise measured. Truth rarely obeyed. They were halfway to the door when the desk sergeant called out, Hart, Ruiz, you have a walk-in. Lena turned. A boy stood just inside the glass vestibule, hands buried in a hoodie, with a single white bar at the cuff. His face had the pale, stunned look of someone who had reached the end of his own rope and found no ground. Noah, Lena said. He swallowed. Up close, he looked younger, jaw stubbled, like he'd tried to stop time by not shaving, eyes red, as if they hadn't closed since Friday. I'm here to confess, he said. The words didn't tremble. They dropped. It was me. Behind him, the station doors sighed shut, cutting off Maple Street's cool autumn air, like a theater curtain coming down between acts. Chapter 6. Confession in the Wrong Direction. Noah Harper sat across the steel table in interview room B. Hoodie sleeves bunched in fists, the single white stripe at the cuff stark against the grey metal. His face was pale but determined, like a boy trying to play a man's part. I hit her, he said, voice low but steady. I killed Ms. Brooks. The tape recorder whirred to life. Lena Hart leaned forward, elbows on the table, hands folded. She'd heard confessions before, some real, some rehearsed. This one had the polish of something practiced in a mirror. Tell me what happened, Lena said evenly. Noah's eyes flicked to the corner camera, then back down. She called my dad. I found out. I went over to stop her. She got angry, said she'd ruin our family. I grabbed the skillet and trailed off, throat bobbing. I didn't mean to, but I did it. Across the table, Marco Ruiz crossed his arms, and after that, I staged a break-in, broke the window, hid the skillet in our grill, washed it, that's all. His words fell like bricks, heavy, deliberate, too neat. Lena tilted her head. What time did you get to Evelyn's? 8:30. Wrong. The porch light and cameras proved otherwise. And what time did you leave? 10, he said quickly. Wrong again. Funny, Marco said, because the cameras show someone leaving at 9:28 with the skillet. You weren't there at 10. Noah's hands clenched tighter. Maybe I got the time wrong. Maybe, Lena said softly. Or maybe you're confessing to something you didn't do. His eyes flashed up, sharp. I'm telling you it was me. Arrest me. Marco pushed back from the table. Kids covering. For who? Lena asked, though she already knew. Noah's shoulders rose and fell, a tremor running through him. He opened his mouth, then shut it like he'd swallowed something sharp. The door opened. Daniel Harper walked in, lawyer at his side. Daniel's face was calm, but his eyes darted to his son like a magnet to metal. Detectives, the lawyer said briskly. This questioning ends now. My client is a minor, and he has confessed. If you intend to charge him, do so. Otherwise, this interview is over. Lena kept her voice steady. We'll charge when we believe the confession matches the evidence. Right now, it doesn't. Daniel's jaw flexed, just once. He placed a hand on Noah's shoulder, squeezing hard enough that the boy flinched. It's done, Daniel said firmly. My son's admitted it. You've got what you need. But Lena had seen the tremor in Noah's hand, the way his eyes begged without words. The story he told didn't line up because it wasn't his. Back in the bullpen, Lena paced in tight circles. Marco sat at the desk, tapping a pen against his notebook. Kid's not our killer, Marco said. Confessions canned, fed to him. Fed by Dad, Lena muttered. Daniel walked in ready to seal it. Why would Noah play along? Because he thinks he's saving his family, Lena said. That's what teenagers do, they sacrifice themselves for the people they terrified of losing. Marco sighed. So we've got a lying dad, a covering son, and a mother who sees everything but won't say a word. And a skillet that doesn't care about family loyalty, Lena added. That night, Lena sat in her car on Maple Street, watching shadows shift behind the Harpers' curtains. The neighborhood looked unchanged, pumpkins on porches, sprinklers hissing in the dark, but everything underneath was rotting. She replayed Noah's words in her head. I didn't mean to, but I did it. Wrong time, wrong details, wrong feel. It wasn't guilt, she'd heard it, was loyalty. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number, she answered. Silence, then breathing, then a click. She stared at the phone, pulse ticking faster. Someone wanted this case buried. Someone who knew she was too close. She started the car, headlights sweeping across the Harpers' yard. For a second, she caught a figure at the upstairs window. Noah, maybe, staring out into the night. His outline looked fragile, like a boy trapped in a role he couldn't play much longer. The next morning, the lab called with a new detail. Detective Hart, the DNA on that dark hair we pulled from under the skillet rim, it's male. But it's not Noah's. Not Noah's, Lena repeated, scribbling notes. No, and not Evelyn's either. The sample's partial but consistent with Daniel Harper. Her pulse quickened. The skillet wasn't Noah's burden to bear. It was Daniel's. She looked at the board in the squad room, at the names and threads crisscrossing. Evelyn's threat, the porch light, the I'll fix it, the staged window, the washed skillet. Daniel Harper was trying to handcuff his own son with a story that didn't fit, and Noah was too desperate to hold the family together to let go. Lena grabbed her coat. It was time to corner Daniel with the one thing he couldn't: stage science. But before she could step out, the desk sergeant rushed over, face pale. Detective call just came in. Patrol car found Noah Harper. Lena froze. We're half a mile from the river, sitting on the guardrail. The sergeant swallowed. And he's got a note. Chapter 7: The Skillet. No sirens cut the quiet. Patrol officers had killed the lights on purpose. Their cruisers parked discreetly along the shoulder by the river. Lena Hart pulled up fast, gravel spitting under her tires. Ahead, Noah Harper sat perched on the guardrail, hoodie drawn tight, legs dangling over the drop where dark water slid slow and black beneath the bridge. An officer stood a careful 10 feet away, palms open, murmuring soft reassurances. The boy clutched a folded sheet of paper in one hand, knuckles white. Noah, Lena called gently as she stepped closer. My name's Detective Hart. I just want to talk. He glanced over, face ghost pale in the cruiser beams. His eyes were hollow with exhaustion, but there was a flicker of relief, like someone finally showed up who might understand. I can't do it anymore, he whispered. The paper trembled in his grip. Lena kept her hands where he could see them. Do what, Noah? Cover, he said. His throat worked. He told me it was the only way, that if I confessed, it would fix things. Daniel Harper, always fixin'. Lena eased forward a step. Noah, listen to me. The evidence doesn't match your confession. We know you didn't do it. The skillet, it wasn't yours. His eyes flicked wide. You know? Yes, Lena said softly. We know, but we need you to say it. The boy sagged like a marionette cut from strings. He handed her the note. Scrawled lines, jagged. I did it. I can't let him take the fall. I'm sorry. Lena tucked the note into her jacket. Noah, it's over. You don't need to protect him anymore. Tears tracked down his cheeks, stark in the dim light. He said, if Mom found out, everything would be ruined, that I owed him, that I should be the one to carry it. Your dad. Noah nodded, shoulders shaking. He told me, be a man. Lena's jaw tightened. Being a man doesn't mean carrying someone else's crime. She reached out slowly, and after a long, brittle pause, Noah let her guide him off the rail. Back at the station, they gave the boy water and a blanket. He sat silent, hoodie sleeves swallowed in his fists. Claire Harper arrived minutes later, face pale, lips trembling with a fury she was barely holding down. What did you do to my son? She snapped at Lena. Nothing, Lena said evenly. He almost did something to himself because he has been carrying your husband's lie. Claire's face froze. For a second she looked carved from stone. Then, cracks spidered Daniel. She whispered, as if saying the name hurt. We have DNA from the skillet that matches him. Lena said, we have Evelyn's voicemail. We have his fingerprint on the threatening note. And now we have your son's near suicide, because Daniel convinced him to confess." Claire pressed a hand to her mouth, tears brimming. Lena leaned closer. "Mrs. Harper, you know what your husband did. You've always known. But your silence is killing your son. If you want to save Noah, you have to stop protecting Daniel." For the first time, Claire didn't argue. She just nodded, once, sharply. Daniel Harper came in later that night, summoned under the guise of retrieving Noah. He strode into the precinct, loyalist, this time, confidence pasted on. "Where's my boy?" he demanded. "In a safe place," Lena said. "Safer than he's been in weeks." Daniel's eyes narrowed. "What are you playing at?" She set the skillet on the table between them, evidence tags dangling. "This, your DNA's on it. Your towels, your prints on the note, your lies about the gym. Want me to go on?" For the first time, Daniel faltered, his mouth opened, then shut. He looked not at Lena, but at the mirror behind her, where he knew Marco was watching. "You don't understand," Daniel said finally, voice dropping. "She was going to ruin us. My wife, my job, everything. Evelyn wouldn't stop. So you made her stop," Lena said. "I didn't mean," he began, then caught himself. "You didn't mean to leave her dead in her kitchen," Lena pressed. "Or you didn't mean to make your son believe he had to carry it." Daniel's mask cracked. He sagged back in the chair, hands clawing the table edge. "He was already there," he muttered. "He went first. He begged her not to tell. She laughed. He shoved. She fell. I came after. She was still alive, barely. She said my name. I panicked. I grabbed the skillet. One hit. Just one. To finish what was already." His voice broke off. Lena sat very still. "So your son saw her fall, and you decided to be the executioner. Then you told him to confess, to bury your crime." Daniel's head dropped into his hands. "I couldn't lose everything." "You already did," Lena said. By dawn, Claire signed a statement confirming she'd known Daniel was lying, that he'd pressured Noah to confess. She looked smaller, stripped of the polish she wore like armor. "I thought I was protecting the family," she whispered. "But all I did was let Daniel poison it." Lena gave a curt nod. "The truth's messy, Mrs. Harper, but lies kill faster." Noah slept in a cot in the youth wing, his hoodie balled under his head. For the first time, his breathing was even. Marco leaned against the doorway, arms folded. "Think the DA will cut him slack. He didn't swing the skillet," Lena said. "He just tried to carry the weight. That's not a crime, it's a tragedy." They walked out into the grey morning. Maple Street lay quiet, lawns wet with dew, pumpkins slumped on porches. On the Harper lawn, the porch light flicked on automatically with the rising sun. "Street'll never look the same," Marco muttered. "Neither will the people on it," Lena said. Chapter 8, The 9/12 Truth. The sun rose cold over Maple Street, the kind of pale autumn light that made the lawns look brittle and unforgiving. Patrol cars still dotted the curb, neighbors craning from behind curtains, their gossip waiting to ripen. The Harper Colonial loomed at the center of it all, shutters closed tight, as if the house itself was bracing for judgment. Inside the precinct, Daniel Harper sat in holding, head bowed between his hands. He hadn't asked for a lawyer again. Maybe he knew one couldn't wash away the skillet, the fibers, the voicemail, the note. His silence was louder than any confession. But Lena Hart knew she wasn't done, not until she understood what really happened at 9:12 p.m. The moment the porch light first clicked on, she replayed the footage again in the tech room. The hooded figure, sleeve flashing white, stepping across the Harper yard. The knock at Evelyn's door, the porch light burning bright. At first, everyone assumed that figure carried the skillet out, but the timeline now painted something different. Noah had gone first. He'd begged Evelyn not to expose the affair, his voice breaking under the weight of secrets too large for a teenager. Evelyn, already worn down, had told him she had no choice, and in that desperate scramble, she stumbled. Counter, floor, Noah's panic, raw, untrained. That was 9:12. Then came Daniel at 9:28, stepping out of the shadows, heavy skillet in hand. He saw his son trembling, saw Evelyn still alive, barely, and he chose the unthinkable. One swing, the final silence. The camera had anti-captured a weapon, leaving Evelyn's house. It had captured a father, carrying guilt into it. In interview room A, Lena laid it out in front of Daniel, piece by piece. "The porch light," she said. "It wasn't your signal. It was Evelyn, flicking it on after Noah knocked. She still thought she was answering a student, not a killer. Daniel flinched, but didn't speak. At Novi Dozy, Noah was there. We've got his idle gaming log, the shoe print, the jacket. He panicked. But he didn't kill her. Daniel's eyes flicked up, glassy. You arrived later, Lena continued. 9:28. Claire's dashcam caught the skillet as you carried it across the yard. The sound of you dropping it near the grill came at 10:03. You weren't cleaning up your son's mess, you were creating your own. His hands shook against the table. She said my name, he whispered. She looked at me, and all I could think was, if Claire found out, if the school found out, you cared more about saving your reputation than saving your son. Lena cut in. Daniel's face collapsed into his palms. No denial left, just ruin. Noah was told the truth that night, gently, in the youth wing where he still slept fitfully under a thin blanket. Lena sat across from him, her voice steady but soft. It wasn't you, she said. We know you panicked, but you didn't kill her. Your dad did. Noah's eyes filled, his shoulders sinking. He told me, if I didn't confess, he'd go to prison, that our family would fall apart. He said it was my chance to prove I was loyal. You proved you were loyal, Lena said quietly. But loyalty shouldn't cost you your life. The boy nodded, tears slipping free, the weight finally sliding from his shoulders. Claire Harper never returned to Maple Street after that day. She packed bags in silence, escorted by officers, her face unreadable. She refused to look at Daniel as he was led in cuffs to the transport van. The porch light burned one last time that evening before a neighbor switched it off, as if extinguishing a vigil. The street tried to stitch itself back together, children waiting for buses, couples trimming hedges, but the wound stayed raw. No one could pass Evelyn's house without seeing the yellow tape in their minds. The sugar on the floor, the ghost of her hand outstretched by the island. Weeks later, Lena drove through the neighborhood one last time. The decorations had come down, leaves blown into piles, lawns stripped bare for winter. Maple Street looked quiet again, the kind of quiet that pretended nothing had happened. She parked by the old bungalow with the doorbell camera, staring across at Evelyn's porch. The timestamp still burned in her mind, 9:12. The moment innocence ended. Marco leaned against the hood beside her, sipping coffee. You ever think about how many other streets are hiding the same kind of mess? Every street, Lena said. This one just flicked its light on at the wrong time. They sat in silence for a while, listening to the wind rattle empty branches. As Lena pulled away, her eyes caught the Harper house one last time. The porch light, on a timer nobody had bothered to reset, clicked to life, a bright, ordinary glow. But to Lena, it looked like a warning. Ending. Daniel Harper is charged with murder, his own son nearly destroyed by a false confession meant to protect him. Maple Street returns to its facade of suburban calm, but the porch light at 9:12 remains a chilling reminder. Behind perfect lawns and painted shutters, even the quietest neighborhoods can harbor darkness. Silence can be deadlier than any weapon.